Let's get into the preview of the Giants and the Atlanta Falcons. One bad team, one mid team, two awful quarterback situations. One that doesn't have a legit starting quarterback on their roster. Another that does and is on his last legs of his NFL career, I hate to say, because I love Kirk Cousins. I do. Underdog story, yes. But unfortunately, he's never getting a Super Bowl ring. The injuries have hindered him. And Atlanta has good O-line play. It's not that. It's just Cousins has been bad. They don't trust him. And I think what saves Atlanta is their schedule right now. They just took care of the soft Raiders. They barely skated by them, though, on the road, 15-9. Sam, could they beat another 2-win team this week?
Any given Sunday, it really is like so up in the air all the time. The Giants have lost so many games in a row, and you would think that streak would end at some point. But I don't know, Tom. I'm really struggling with this.
Yeah. The most Giants thing ever would be to win this game, win next week,
Right.
not get either of the top two QBs, and then get blown out by the Eagles in the season finale, finish 4-13, and then bring Dayball back.
That would be – I'm afraid that you just spoke that into existence. I'm afraid that that's what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Who's to say? But, maybe if there is, we're going to talk about it with Noah, but if there is some sort of change on the offense for the Falcons, we might be seeing a completely different team if Kirk Cousins isn't playing.
Right. Falcons are 7-7. They're 10.5-point favorites despite their quarterback controversy.
Incredible.
Giants have not won in Atlanta since 2007, the Eli Manning days.
Perfect. Amazing.
And I think another thing, too, before we bring up Noah in just about 60 seconds from now, the Giants' offense is last in the NFL in points per game, averaging under 15. They have scored just 20 points once over the last 5 games. Awful.
That 20 points, that was Drew Lock against the Cowboys, right?
Yes, Thanksgiving.
Yep.
But yeah, speaking of thankful for one of our good friends here of the program and the show, Noah Dawg Deibler from the proud state of Georgia. Noah, welcome to the show.
What's up, guys? How you doing?
Fantastic. Every day is paradise here, Noah. Really is.
Oh, yeah. Well, especially if you're going for the number 1 pick. That's been going great for you guys lately. Got to look at the bright side.
But who knows? Maybe Tom just ruined it for us by saying that we're going to win the next 2 games.
That's very possible as well. Yeah. How are you guys doing tonight?
I'm doing okay, but
not bad.
Yeah, it's not hard to feel depressed when I was watching the game last night and I was like, getting walked off by Desmond Ridder would be the most Atlanta Falcons ending of a game I've ever seen. And thankfully, it didn't happen. But, I mean, with the way they played the last month and a half, the fact that that was something you actually had to worry about, I mean, that says all you need to know about how we've been playing lately. But, winnable game, keyword win, in quotes, because they've made no team look winnable recently. But yeah, I mean, we'll get into all the details. I looked up the script. There's a lot of fun stuff I get to discuss tonight, I see. So
yeah, I'm ready to hop right into it. And you're talking about the last month or so of the Falcons. They broke that 4-game losing streak last night, by the skin of their teeth, basically. But, Kirk is someone who's also struggled with primetime games and going, away games as well. What are you attributing these late season woes to? Because, you guys started off pretty strong.
Yeah, we started off really good, especially considering how horrible our first couple of weeks of the schedule were. I mean, you faced Eagles on the road, the Chiefs at home on Sunday Night Football. we've already played the Bucks twice, and we've seen the past few weeks the Bucks look really good. I mean, their offense is explosive. Baker just absolutely tore apart the Chargers. But then I don't know what it was. They got to that second Saints game, which I knew was a toss-up game. I know a lot of people didn't think that, but I mean, it's one of those rivalry games to where records go out the window, stuff happens. But then I don't know what it was. It's like, so to answer the question, two major things. Number one, that second Saints game was whatever happened with Kirk Cousins. That's when the switch flipped to where, it's funny to think how bad he's been lately. This is the same guy that passed for 505 yards against that same Bucks team I just mentioned just a couple, 2 months ago or whatever. Looks unrecognizable since that second Saints game. He had that stat where he went like 6 straight games with no touchdowns to like 6 interceptions. He finally got a pass touchdown last night, but I mean, barely cracked 100 passing yards. That's number one. That was the big addition in free agency to the team because we struggled so bad with quarterback play since – the last few years of Matt Ryan's career when he was kind of on the downhill, and then brought in Mariota, didn't work. Put in Ritter, didn't work. That was the big addition, 40 plus million or whatever it is. To say it's been a mixed bag is an understatement at this point. That's number one. Number two has been the defense. The Falcons have had horrible defense as long as I can remember, but they were better last season. I wouldn't say they were amazing, but they were like average. And then, you go out, you get Matt Judon in a move. You get Justin Simmons, which I thought was a big signing. He was a beast in Denver. And it just hasn't worked out. They started the season all right. I wouldn't say amazing, but, pretty good. Keeping them in games for sure. There were games like that that second Saints game I mentioned, the Chargers game, where the defense kept them in it, and they couldn't pull it out at the end because the offense sputtered. But, they've had a couple games like that. The Denver one comes to mind instantly. I mean, my God, I don't know what the defense was doing that game. They just, they're giving up I don't have the exact numbers right in front of me, but if I had to guess, 25 or 26 points per game, negative points differential. They can't pass rush at all, which, I mean, the Falcons have not had a good pass rush in about 12 years. So that doesn't really surprise me. But, I mean, you get a guy in like Judon who, last time he was healthy, 2-3 years ago with the Patriots, I mean, this is a double-digit sack guy. And this season, he has like 3.5 maybe, just off the top of my head. It hasn't worked out. Yeah, I mean, the defense and the sputtering offense, it's a horrible combination. I mean, it's a good thing they're 7-7 and that the Bucks are the only other decent team in the division. I mean, if they were in any other division in the NFC, they'd be up, a creek without a paddle, pretty much.
Yeah. You guys beat the Bucks twice this year,
Yep.
Which is crazy. Those meetings were in the first half of the season, obviously, but before we get to the next question, just a couple comments here, Michael. Appreciate the acknowledgement there. I'm glad that helped. Hi, Mom. Your dedication to the Giants is admirable.
Hi, Mom.
Thank you.
I met her, by the way.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did.
Very nice lady.
That was a great weekend. We'll have to talk about our little gentleman's bet we had.
Yep.
No money, just the typical gentleman's bet. Next question, though.
Mm-hmm.
What has gone wrong with Kirk Cousins over the past month? Obviously, Raheem Morris came out today and said he is non-committal to who the quarterback will be next week. Usually when that statement is made, a quarterback change is being made. But with the team at 7-7 and the amount of money you paid Kirk Cousins, I don't know. I think Cousins should start another week, especially since it's against the Giants.
Right.
How much trust do you have in him at this point?
I mean, it's really tough to say. I'd say early in the season, I had a lot of trust in him. He had a little bit of a slow start the first couple of weeks, but then again, he had moments of brilliance, like in that second half against the Eagles, the Bucks game, which I already mentioned. He just absolutely went off in that game. And then, like I said, I don't know what it was, but when we got that second Saints game, I don't know if it's a confidence issue, maybe some lingering thing with his injury from last season, play calling. It was just a total 180. It wasn't like he just had a few off games. He went from being really good, definitely top half quarterback in NFL to being, past month and a half, I'd say bottom 5 is probably being generous, which is crazy to say. I mean, he's just been absolutely awful, horrible decision making, terrible interceptions all over the place. I mean that Chargers game, no touchdowns to 4 interceptions. This was a game where on the other side you only give up 17 points. You get in the red zone over and over again, and it's the same mistakes, turnovers, dumb penalties as well. It's not all just him. That's important to say. I know because he's quarterback, a lot of people just put on him. It's not all him, but I mean, it's at some point you got to start, throwing for some touchdowns, throwing for some yards. He doesn't have any excuses really, because I mean, compared to some of the crap I saw Matt Ryan deal with during his career, no offensive line, no running game. This guy has an offensive line. He has a really good running game. You got Drake London, you got Darnell Mooney, which was an amazing pickup, by the way. Kyle Pitts. I mean, he's got weapons. You got Zach Robinson and OC. That was one of the prime time OC candidates for people in the offseason. You got him in. I mean, what's the excuse, really? I mean, I understand the guy is 35 or whatnot, but Tom, every time I talk to you about this signing, I was like, man, this is exactly what they needed. I mean, a guy his entire career, 4,000 plus yards, 25, 30 touchdowns, low teens interceptions. This year he goes out, he has a career high in interceptions. It's like, how can you account for something like that happening? And again, like I said, I don't know how to explain it because it was so sudden. It wasn't like, oh, it's just a gradual decline. It was like a switch flipped to where he went from being good to being unrecognizable. And in regards to the whole Michael Penix thing, I hated that pick when they made it. I thought it was a stupid pick. They had big needs they need to make. You draft a quarterback that might not play for 2 to 3 years, and then you go out and see this, and you're like, well, first of all, he's already played. He came in the Denver game, which was a blowout, threw 5 passes, little cameo. And now you're talking, well, he might be starting way sooner than anyone thought he would, which at one point is exciting. At the other point, it's like, we paid $40 million to have our quarterback on the bench. I mean, I know you guys can relate to that, but that's not what you want. It's definitely not what you want. I'm glad I'm not the one that has to make the call on whether or not to bench him. Is it official?
Whoa, Zach,
is that
drop
official?
News.
Sorry, old boy. Literally 3 minutes ago. Yes, it is official. This is from AtlantaFalcons.com.
Wow. Oh, my God. Well, that changes things.
No, this is Rap Sheet just posted it 3 minutes ago, so now we know for sure.
Wow, that's
take a moment to process it.
Little surprised. Just a little, though, because like I said, he's played so badly lately. I mean, you can't say you're too surprised. When I did see that Raheem Morris quote, I thought it was a little suspicious because, you don't openly commit to a quarterback you're paying that much money to. I did like him in college, Michael Penix. I thought he was pretty good. I do think they kind of reached on him a little bit at number 8, and especially because I thought he was going to be the backup for 2 years. I was like, don't like this. That's a big move to make, though, because the Falcons are in a playoff push. They're 1 game behind the Bucs. They do have that big tiebreaker over the Bucs, and I think they have a much more favorable schedule the last 3 games than the Bucs do. But you're still throwing in a guy that is a total unknown at the NFL level, which can work, less scouting and whatnot. But you're not throwing him into a no-pressure situation like when these other teams make these quarterback changes where they take out a vet and put in a rookie. There's no pressure. The team is out of contention. That's totally different than what the Falcons are at right now. They want to make the playoffs, and they can't really afford to lose. I mean, they can lose maybe 1 more game and go 9-8. But that's about it. That's their only margin for error. They need to win at least 2 or 3, preferably 3 of the 3. So that's a big gamble. I will say I respect Raheem Morris. That's a big balls move, if you will, to do it at this point in the season. It does surprise me a little. I mean, there's not much else I can say. I just hope it works out. I mean, it's one of those things where it works out, you look like a genius. And if it doesn't, well, I mean, Kirk Cousins has been so bad lately that I guess it was worth a shot. But yeah, that little bombshell right as I'm talking about Kirk Cousins. Wow.
That's $180 million guaranteed. Like that is
on the bench. Yeah.
Expensive. And you're right. We know how that feels, but like, damn, that is crazy. My goodness. All right. Well, Michael Penix Jr.
Well,
Sure.
Wow.
okay.
If I can just throw his quote in there too, Sam, before we get to the next
For sure.
question.
Mhm.
This is from Mike Garafolo. In quote from Falcons head coach Raheem Morris, after review, we have made the decision Michael Penix will be the Atlanta Falcons starting quarterback moving forward. This was a football decision, and we are fully focused on preparing the team for Sunday's game against the New York Football Giants. Okay, he didn't say football Giants, but I did.
But you did.
I swear, God, I just know as soon as I get off from here, I'm gonna enter all my group chats. I'm just gonna be getting absolutely lit up to pieces because of this move. I'm gonna get trolled all over the place. I already know what's happening right now as we speak.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I love Kirk Cousins. I hope this isn't
I
it for
love
him as an NFL starter.
I don't know. Maybe it's the kick up his pants he needs, though.
And now, I'm sorry, Noah. Now, as Giants fans, you know what everyone is going to be reporting on. Should the Giants trade for Kirk Cousins next season? I think there's a no trade clause, though, isn't there?
I
don't know for sure.
It's basically they have been out after 2 years.
Okay.
So I think they're going to keep him at least 2 years. And then I don't know past that. So I don't think they would trade him. But then again, like I said, this isn't exactly a guy you can have on the bench either. So I don't know, man. That's a bombshell. Jesus.
Well,
I guess.
Career high 16 picks for Cousins.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, writing's on the wall. I'm just surprised it was this soon. And now everyone who was bashing Atlanta for drafting Penix 8th overall that night, maybe you should be bashing the GM for going out and signing Kirk Cousins to a massive 4-year deal if you know his injury history was – I don't know, Noah. Maybe I'm just having a spitball spur of the moment thought here. But my gosh, maybe that's what has to be questioned more than the Penix draft pick. Now thinking back on it,
I don't
know, man.
I don't even know what to say, man. That's just I'm just not literally speechless, but like, wow.
Hey,
I never if you had told me 9 months ago, right, that Kirk Cousins injury with no injuries would not play the entire season, I would have said you're out of your mind. I would not have expected him to play until late 2025, preferably 2026. He's starting in his rookie year. And like I said, he has played before, but it was only 5 passes at the end of a game that was like, I mean, we just got absolutely annihilated. It wasn't even a contest. This is totally different. And luckily it is at home, which you mentioned earlier. By the way, I got to say, I don't know. It's weird that you guys lost to us in 2007 because our team that year was absolute garbage. That was the year where we had Bobby Petrino resign after a game and leave a note on the locker room saying, I'm going to coach Arkansas. And obviously the whole Michael Vick situation. So that's crazy.
And Michael Vick got a job today too. What a crazy
I did
day.
see that. Yeah, I saw that.
What a crazy day.
Wow.
Well, are we ready to talk about Bijan Robinson then?
Oh, yeah.
We'll go back to Penix later, but
something positive to talk
about. I am personally, I've been riding my fantasy season on Bijan Robinson, so I'm very interested to hear what you have to say, Noah, about him playing this weekend, but specifically also just his season as a whole. I mean, he's been looking incredible recently. So how has he improved this offense? I mean, obviously it's been a bit of a struggle, but he's been fairly consistent, I think.
He's been a bright spot. He's been great ever since he came in, but last season, I don't think we quite used him right. I think we had a lot of situations, especially on the goal line, where we would bring another running back in, like Cordero Patterson. When, you have this big bell cow back, you drafted, top 10 in the first round, give him the football. Another thing is, I think last season they had a very even split between him and Tyler Algier, who I love Tyler Algier, but he's a guy that from what we've seen works better. Less carries. I mean, his rookie season, he only had 210 carries, which was the most on our team, but I mean, that's definitely not a lot for a full season. And he was very efficient, had over 5 yards per carry. This season, he's averaging, I want to say like 4.8, and Bijan is 4.7 off the top of my head. Both very efficient. It's a great 1-2 punch. Obviously, Bijan is the lead guy, especially in the receiving game. but they have two capable options there. Play calling, running wise, I think is much better. But yeah, he's always been very good. I just think we've done a better job of utilizing his strengths this season in the passing game as well. I like him a lot. I mean, it's one of those picks to where I didn't like it at the time because I don't think drafting running backs high and paying them a lot of money ever really works because it's one of the most dependent positions in the NFL. But he's done well. I mean, there's no denying that. He's a big part of our offense. Very good runner. Another big thing with him as well. Last season, and his stats up this point, by the way, he is like around the same amount of carries in only 14 games that he had all last season. But a big thing as well, he had 4 fumbles last season, 0 this year. That's awesome for a running back.
Love that.
0. Yep.
Wow. Man, bombshell stuff happening on Big Blue Avenue right now. Bijan Robinson is a beast, but 2 other beasts this season. Maybe not beasts, but highly
Very
valued, highly skilled players. Darnell Mooney and Drake London, each closing in on 1,000-yard seasons potentially.
Yep.
What has the addition of Mooney meant to Drake London and this Atlanta Falcons receiving core?
Man, Mooney, I really like him. He's a guy, well, first of all, I mean, you come from Chicago, which, I mean, we've seen in Chicago, a guy like Keenan Allen can go there, and it's just, I mean, basically wide receiver purgatory over there with their quarterback carousel. But I always thought he was, not an elite player by any means, but definitely a solid player, a solid number 2. Whereas in Chicago, I kind of felt it at times in his career that they were trying to make him more than what he was. I think for Mooney, he's a great number 2. And London, I think, is developing into that number 1. It helps Drake London, which, again, is funny to say this after, I just talked so much about how much Kirk Cousins has struggled. But earlier in the season, it really helped Drake London that he finally had a quarterback that was able to consistently get him the football compared to, guys like Mariota and Ritter, to where that was just not a thing at all. But, I mean, he's 18th in receiving yards this year. He's tied for 10th in catches in the league with 78 catches and 7 touchdowns as well. And while they've fallen down, the receiving leaderboards this season, there was actually a point earlier in the season, I want to say 3 or 4 weeks ago, both of these guys were top 10 in receiving yards. They've fallen down a bit because the quarterback struggles, with Kirk Cousins, obviously. But, I mean, I'm looking at the right now, and they're still both, top 20 in receiving yards. I'd say London's like top 15, and Mooney's a few places below. But they're both doing really good. 12 touchdowns between them. You add in Kyle Pitts. Kyle Pitts is the most frustrating player I've ever seen in my life. There are points where he's just a total ghost. And then there are other times he had like a 4 or 5 game stretch this season to where he was just absolutely balling out. And you had a top 3 at the skills positions for Kirk Cousins to throw to that were all really good. And then Kyle Pitts kind of fades away once again. And then it goes back to the 2 wide receivers. And, obviously Kirk Cousins isn't really helping much anymore. But as for those 2 guys, I like them a lot. I think they're definitely pieces we can build around for the future years to come. Obviously, London's much younger than Mooney is. Mooney's not old, but he's definitely, a vet at this point. But, yeah, I have faith in those 2. I think the problem for Drake London as well for a few years was it was basically Drake London and nobody else to throw to at wide receiver position. Maybe Kyle Pitts would have a good game here and there, but wide receiver-wise, he was basically the only guy. Now you got 2 guys, and that really helps. And they also have, I think, underrated depth at wide receiver. I wouldn't say they have amazing guys, but I like some of their guys lower in the depth chart as well.
As a former Kyle Pitts fantasy owner,
oh my God,
I understand.
Mm-hmm.
I made that decision twice. I tried to give him a second chance.
Luckily, I never had him. I'm actually really hesitant to draft players on my team because I believe in superstition and jinxes. And every time I draft a player on my team, other than Darnell Mooney, funny enough, I've had him in both my leagues this year, and he's been really good. But,
Well, to Zach's comment, no, unfortunately, I will not be benching my whole team. But may the best man win. It'll be a fun matchup this weekend. Let's talk a bit about your coach. Raheem Morris, obviously someone who's very defensive minded, but your lack there of a pass rush is very obvious. So what is this concern happening here as someone like Morris who should be excelling at this?
Well, first of all, I think a lot of it is personnel. I don't really think we have amazing guys in the front four. I mean, like I said earlier, Judon was our big addition, and
Right.
I'm looking at his stats right now. He has 3.5 sacks in the whole season, 4 tackles for loss. Not what you expected for a guy that you go out and trade for. I know he's 32 years old, but like I said, the last time he was healthy in 2022, he had 15.5 sacks. I mean, that's really good. You don't expect that to just go away from an injury, but clearly he has not been what we expected. Our 2 sack leaders on the year are Caden Ellis and Arnold Ebekete, which are guys that you would not expect to lead your team in sacks, to say the least. Grady Jarrett is 35, I want to say, something like that. He's definitely getting on up there in age. He's still solid, but definitely not the guy he used to be. If about 4 or 5 years ago, he was an absolute animal. And we can't rush the passer, which Raheem Morris came from the Rams. Obviously, he formerly coached the Falcons as well. We had no pass rush then either, but our personnel was even worse then. So, I mean, that's understandable. I don't think it's all Raheem Morris. I don't think we have really anything to work with, which is horrible considering we've drafted so many defensive players over the years. And yet, it feels like 10 years, the last 10 years, guys, I've been saying the exact same thing about the Falcons pass rush. I mean, you could just basically clip me saying the Falcons have no pass rush, play it for the next 5 years, and it would probably still be accurate in some way. It's just a total embarrassment. It's weird as well, right? Because I'd say our biggest strength is the secondary. But if you can't rush the passer, I mean, guys are going to get open. They're going to torch you deep every single time. That's just the way the NFL works. You cannot have no pass rush in the NFL. We've been bottom 3 to 5 in sacks, and pressure rate is as long as I can remember, pretty much, outside of like a fluke season by Vic Beasley back in 2016. We haven't had a premier pass rusher since John Abraham, who hasn't played for the Falcons since 2012, I want to say. So, partially personnel. I mean, we had some years with Dan Quinn, like leading up to Super Bowl, where our defense played better. I wouldn't say elite, but, making plays when they needed to. But for the most part, I'd say 80% of the time I've been watching the Falcons, they've had no defense whatsoever. And that's why I was so happy to see last season that they were just average. This season, they've regressed. I don't know. Drafting the wrong guys, getting stopgap free agents to come in. They have talent is the annoying thing. They have talented players, but they still can't get as much defensive stop. I mean, they're allowing 45% on third downs this season. That's not good enough. Too many big passes deep. No pass rush. Running defense has been all right at times. I mean, it's been a bit inconsistent, though, as well. So I don't want to put it all on Raheem Morris. It is his first year back. Let's be honest. The issues with the Falcons have come from years of very poor drafting, inconsistent play on the defensive side of the football. Don't think it's just him. But, like you said, this is a guy that has a defensive background. He's been a coach for a very long time. I mean, I remember when he was the head coach of the Bucs.
Yeah.
That was freaking 13 years ago now at this point. He knows what he's doing. I'm not going to say he's an idiot or anything. He's a very smart guy, very nice guy as well. He's a guy I root for to do well. So, I'm fine with giving him time to see, get some more guys in that he wants on that defense. Because I still think Justin Simmons is a good player. That was one of his big moves. Judon, I understand why they traded for him. It just hasn't worked out. Sometimes that happens, right? But the rest of these guys, a lot of these other guys have been here for years and years, or, before Morris got here. So, I don't think it's all him at all. I think, personnel, like I said.
Well, what's the identity then? Is it Caden Ellis? Is it Jesse Bates? Like Terrell? Like, is it the secondary as a whole? Like, what is keeping you? You guys have 7 wins, and the offense has not been great, or the quarterback position has not been great the last month and a half.
Right.
So clearly the defense is doing something. I mean, you did just come off a 4-game losing streak, so that does contradict a little bit what I just said. But for the season, you still have 7 wins. So the defense isn't an absolute dumpster fire.
Yeah. No, there's definitely some bright spots, like I said. I think Jesse Bates was one of the big bright spots. He had that interception in the Eagles game earlier in the year that won them the game. He had the interception that ended the game last night as well. I really like him. I've liked him ever since we got him before last season. Just a solid tackler, big hitter as well. 4 forced fumbles this season, one fumble recovery as well, 3 picks. I definitely say he's the leader of that secondary. We still have AJ Terrell as well, who I think flies on the radar as a cornerback. Really like him. I already said I like Justin Simmons. I'd say, the secondary is the bright spot. If you want to call that the identity, go ahead with Jesse Bates as the leader of that unit. But like I said earlier, doesn't really matter how good your secondary is if you can't get pressure on the quarterback, because eventually someone is going to get open. We see this so many times, these plays where quarterbacks have 8 seconds to throw, and eventually someone's going to get wide open deep. That's just the way it goes. That's what I've seen a lot from the Falcons this season, since they can't get any pass rush. I do love Caden Ellis. I think he's a really good linebacker. Looking at some other guys, Mike Hughes, not a big fan of him. And then on the front 7, I already mentioned Grady Jarrett. I like him, but once again, he's a guy that's getting pretty old now. He's 31 this season. David Onyemata, I mean, if that's one of your leading guys in your defensive line at this point, I don't know what you're doing pretty much. So, yeah. Identity has not been present. I'll say that for like the past month and a half. Definitely.
Something I'm interested to hear your thoughts about. I'm a huge Baker Mayfield fan. So the NFC South for me has been fun to watch, because I do really love Kirk Cousins too, and it's like they're I guess like a mid division to begin with. So like, they're not fantastic, but I enjoy watching Baker Mayfield, so I've been rooting for the Buccaneers. Do you think that they are in for the NFC South, or do you think that the Falcons are gonna pull something out? Like, where is this division going right now?
Oh man, it's really tough, right? Because I expected we'd just be back to square one. I thought the Chargers would beat them. We'd both be 7-7. The last 3 games, like I said, I think we have the more favorable schedule. The next 3 we play play you guys. We play at Washington, who I think Washington's a really good team, but we just saw they almost lost to the Saints. They're not an unbeatable team, in my opinion. Our last game is at home against Carolina, which you would expect to beat. Whereas they play on the road at Dallas, which I know Dallas isn't great this year, but mainly because their coach. It's definitely not a gaming game by any means. And then they play at home to the Panthers and Saints, who, once again, divisional games, anything can happen. And we have that tiebreaker, like I said, because we swept them, which is big. So if we have we have the same record, we get in over them. All of that logically makes me want to say the Falcons win the South. But when you look at how the teams have actually played lately, you got to give it to the Bucs, and Baker has been incredible. I gotta tip my cap to him. I wasn't sure what he would do this season, because if you look at his career trend before this year, he'd have one good year and then one bad year over and over again. And the question was, could he have 2 good years back to back, because he was really good last year, and then this season he's been really good. He's been, dare I say, top 5 to 10. Would you say that? Do you guys think that's fair to say this season?
Yeah.
So
he's flirting with 5.
That.
I'll be honest, he's flirting with 5. If it wasn't for
I say top 5.
4-game losing streak they had in the middle of the season.
Yeah. Especially with some of the wide receiver injuries he had. Godwin, getting injured, and Mike Evans was out for a bit as well. And he's just been really good. Their offense looks explosive. I mean, they killed the Chargers, like I already said. They scored 51 against the Saints, a couple months back. Even the games they lost to us, it wasn't because of their offense. It was their defense couldn't get a stop whatsoever. They killed the Eagles early in the year as well. They killed you guys a few weeks ago. Don't think I'm going to forget that one as well.
Thanks.
No problem, buddy.
Yeah.
But, yeah, once again, I think we should still win the division just because we have winnable games. If Penix isn't a disaster, if he can just hold his own, just play average. Play like an average NFL quarterback. They can win the next 2 out of their last 3, and then I think the Bucs might slip up against a team like the Cowboys or maybe the Saints. Just get the same record. If you go 9-8, if we both go 9-8 and we get in the playoffs, we're not going to do anything in the playoffs, but you would make the playoffs. But again, like I said, just based off play, the Bucs have looked really good lately. I mean, they've won 4 straight. We've been a total disaster. If it's based on that, they're going to win the South. And they do have that 1-game lead, which is an advantage for them. We need them to slip up. Destiny is not in our hands, which is something that irritates me greatly. But it's their own fault, man. You got to deal with it.
Well, back before the season started, I made this bold claim.
You did.
If the Atlanta Falcons don't make the playoffs in 2024, Tom owes Noah New York pizza. Do you still hold me to this statement?
Tom, I don't even know why you bother asking this. You made me try New York pizza. It was one of the greatest things I've ever tasted in my life. I'm a guy that likes food, obviously, a lot. A big boy. I don't know why you would ever think that I've forgotten this bet for 1 second. The answer is absolutely yes. So if we do miss the playoffs, better be ready for that.
Oh, man.
I think you should get Noah pizza no matter what, because
Yeah.
it's New York pizza. It's like,
Don't play with New York pizza, man.
I'm telling you, that
my
one
favorite
place
in the world.
Yes, it is. That one place we went to is the closest thing you can get to New York pizza without actually being in New York.
Yeah.
So if you thought that was amazing, yeah.
Maybe one day.
Yes. Sure. Another college football game in a couple of years. All right. So I was about to ask, where are we? But we're here, and it's time to get into keys of the game. It's like we've hit the apocalypse. Like, oh shit, Kirk Cousins got benched. What now? It's like the show stopped, but we've run long because of that. But it's fine because Kirk is a hot topic around the NFL and in our hearts, all three of our hearts as well. Quickly though, Sam, what are your keys to the game for the Giants this week?
Well, I mean, I'm going to say I hope you guys have been, focusing on both quarterbacks and not just Kirk Cousins, because now you only have a few days to study up on some Michael Penix tape, which there isn't much of. Mm-hmm. So, this is very, very interesting in the fact that I guess the key to the game is to figure out Michael Penix. Like that is the big thing. Is he going to be handing the ball off a lot? Is he going to be chucking the ball to Drake London? Is he going to be running a lot? There's a lot of different things here to be considering. So I'd say that that's probably the biggest key to the game, as well as I don't want, as a fantasy Bijan owner, I don't want this to happen, but for the Giants' sake, you got to stop that kid like the way we did Derrick Henry. Like that's going to be a huge, huge part of that offense, I think, even with Michael Penix.
Oh boy.
Oh man. Keys to the game for the Giants first, right? I would say it's weird to say, right? Because obviously I went into all this with the expectation Kirk Cousins would start. With Michael Penix is different because I'm looking at the script right now, and one of the things you guys have written down is pressure Kirk Cousins, which makes sense. Kirk Cousins is a statue of a quarterback, whereas Michael Penix has mobility. If you get to him, it's not a guarantee you're going to get him down. He can scrum out of the pocket. He can pass, throw on the run, something you would never expect Kirk Cousins to do. I'd say keys to the game, you definitely have to limit his mobility. Like Sam said, you got to slow down. You're not going to stop him, but you got to slow down Bijan. And I'd throw Algier in there as well. I think he's a really good number 2 that you can rely on. But that's easier said than done because the Giants' run defense is not very good. If the Falcons are able to establish the running game with a mobile quarterback like Penix, play action, rollouts, whatnot, with the weapons that they have, that would be a big thing. On the other side, I'd say for the offense, you're going against a defense that's really struggled lately. I think it's going to be a total cluster over there of 2 units that have absolutely no idea what they're doing lately. Just don't make any major mistakes on offense. Don't turn the ball over. Play the field position game. If the Giants start turning the ball over, they have absolutely no chance because, especially with their run defense. But yeah, those would be my main keys.
For me, it's you got to stack the box, contain Bijan Robinson because you want to make the rookie beat you. I prefer him beat us than Bijan because a lot of responsibility has been thrown on McFadden and those edge rushers this season. Bijan's got over 1,000 yards and 8 scores. The Falcons have a great running game and a good offensive line. Giants defense giving up just a shade under 5 yards per carry. It's gotten a little bit better over the past 2 weeks, but Lamar just crushed us with his arm last week. And Robinson's also a threat in the passing game. 411 receiving yards on the year. And I promised Zach we would get to this. Do we trust Drake London with Penix throwing the football?
I think he's a good player. I would say yes, as long as Penix isn't absolutely horrific like Marcus Mariota. I mean, you got to remember
God.
Drake London did produce with quarterbacks like Mariota and Ritter. It wasn't what you would hope for a guy drafted as high as he was, but it wasn't like he was an absolute trash bum out there doing absolutely nothing. He's got talent. He's a big guy as well. He's like 6'4". If Penix just plays all right, Drake London is going to do his thing. Don't worry about that. It's all on the quarterback. I have no issues with him as a receiver. I'm not saying he's elite, but he's very good. He's very good.
He's still a young boy though. That's where you're a little concerned. A little Achilles heel there, but
that's what you have Darnell Mooney for.
Right, the old boy,
he's an old boy, man.
Sam, turn to you here. We just talked about Drake London. I'll take your watching Bijan this week under a microscope.
I'll say Bijan, but I'd love to bring up Darnell Mooney too, just because I feel like people are going to be focusing on Drake London a bit. And after hearing Noah speak his praises this entire show, basically, I mean, Darnell Mooney is somebody that is going to get the job done. It's not going to be Kyle Pitts, that's for sure. So I'm going to be keeping an eye on this offense in general. Like, this entire offense just got so interesting and so different just with the change at quarterback. So, I'll make those specific guys, but honestly, I'm just going to be watching that entire offense.
Yeah, that's well put. Noah, what about you? Who is under your microscope on Sunday? I'll take it. It's number 8, right?
That's the obvious one. I mean, that's basically what the entire offense revolves around. If he comes in, he looks like a rookie, he struggles. It'll be one of those ugly 17-14 type of games, I think. But if he comes in, and one thing I will say I always liked about Penix at the NFL or the college level, I always thought he was really smart. I mean, he had the talent, but he's a really smart quarterback as well. He's been, behind Kirk Cousins the whole season. I hope he's learned, first of all, what to do, and more likely from the last 6 weeks, what not to do from Kirk Cousins. But, like I said, the mobility, definitely the biggest player to watch for me. Like I said, Bijan got to establish the running game, the wide receivers. I mean, it's tough to say the whole offense, but they have impact players all over the shop. Like I said, that's why the struggles lately have been so frustrating to me. I mean, this year they're 36% on third downs. That's embarrassing. That's a horrible mark with the offensive weapons that they have. That's absolutely atrocious. Turnovers we already mentioned. On the other side, I'd say Jesse Bates. Obviously, I think is our biggest playmaker. Caden Ellis is another one. Some pass rusher, I don't know who, but please, just someone get back there. I don't care who it is. Tired of watching quarterbacks like Sam Darnold pass for 5 touchdowns, 400-ish yards, no interceptions against him. Saying it just makes me want to laugh. It also makes me want to cry. But please, somebody.
Yeah, that's a cry for help, ladies and gentlemen. That's what that is. And I think, in all seriousness, a player like J.D. Bertrand could answer that bell. J.D. Bertrand attended the University of Notre Dame. He is a linebacker. Troy Anderson just got moved to IR a few days ago, so there's a lot more pressure on Caden Ellis now. We know he's their leading tackler, 124 stops and 4 sacks, but J.D. Bertrand has a whopping 14 total tackles this season on special teams. He's been active most weeks, and I think he is seriously a player to watch on special teams. We know special teams could win football games sometimes, and when you have one bad team, one mid team like this that's struggling as of late, that's playing like a bad team, a lucky bounce of the ball, a smart play, you could see Bertrand in there on a third down here and there, especially if this game gets out of hand. In fact, I think J.D. Bertrand could eventually be a future starter in the NFL. This is a closet player that nobody's talking about in the country other than me because I'm crazy. But J.D. Bertrand is my Atlanta Falcons defensive player to watch. mic drop. And then offensively, I know, just terrible segue there. Sam mentioned Darnell Mooney. He's got 19 big play catches this season. He's played in every game this year, and the Giants' corner room is a mess right now. It's an absolute mess. Greg Stroman was starting last week. I don't think no one knows who Greg Stroman is. I know you're a football nut, but
yeah, I have no idea who that is, man.
Yeah, so Mooney's going to go off. Fantasy owners. Robinson's going to go off. London's going to go off. Yeah, so those are my Atlanta Falcons players to watch. Sam, anyone we should bother with on the Giants, or should we just bypass
Micah McFadden. Always.
Yes.
That's our king. I'm
He
going to
is
say
king.
him just because. And you know what? We'll throw Neighbors into the mix too.
There you go.
You know, Tim Boyle threw him a touchdown last week, and you know what? I respect that. Thank you, Tim.
Tim Boyle. That's the guy. That's the name I only know from playing Madden. If I didn't play Madden, I would no clue who Tim Boyle is.
We educated the people today. Everyone knows
There you
who
go.
Tim Boyle is now.
I will say though, Malik Neighbors, pride of LSU, Tom. He's a beast.
Yeah. So good that he's probably going to break some records. He's probably going to be the Giants' first 1,000-yard receiver since Odell Beckham.
Mm-hmm.
He's 99 yards away. He could do it this week. It could happen.
What is it with you guys and these LSU wide receivers? I just noticed that. Odell, didn't Sterling Shepard go? Did he go to LSU?
Oklahoma.
No, Oklahoma.
Okay.
Baker's teammate.
Teammate.
Yep.
Then and now.
Mm-hmm.
Now and later.
Yep.
Sorry, Noah, you were saying?
Yeah, I don't know. I was just rambling, man. But it's just a random thing that popped in my mind when you mentioned Odell.
Yeah. The LSU receivers have been a key cog of ours. Noah, anyone on the Giants you're worried about other than Malik Neighbors, or is that it? You can be brutally honest with us.
I mean, Tyrone Tracy has been pretty good for you guys lately. I'd definitely say him. 4.6 yards per carry. I'm not mentioning Daniel Bellinger. Brian Burns, I really like him. I always liked him even when he was at with Carolina. He was a standout for them for a very long time. Thibodeau as well. Liked him in college too. Very good player. Missed some time this season, but I think he's really solid as well. I'll throw in McFadden, but you guys already mentioned him. They have mainly on defense. On offense, I think it's literally just Neighbors, and that's pretty much it, and maybe Tracy. But again, you got Tim Boyle at quarterback. So like, if this defense can't do decent against Tim Boyle, I mean, what are you doing? So, yeah, there you go.
Absolutely. I'm going to throw in Brian Burns as well. The Falcons are -7, folks, in the turnover differential this season. Look out. Burns can definitely get to the quarterback, even against a good offensive line like Atlanta's. I know Caleb McGarry's been a little banged up this season. Is he healthy, or was he in and out the other night, last night?
Actually, I was just let me check real quick. I was looking at the injury report earlier
because it's early in the week, so it might not be out.
Yeah, I don't currently see him with the injury designation, so I assume he's going to be all right. I mean, he's played through injury a ton in his career anyway. I expect he'll be okay. If not, like I said, we have a mobile quarterback now, so if our offensive line does struggle a little bit more, that's something they can use to help combat that. But yeah.
Awesome. With that being said, folks, early in the week this week, Sam, let's get to our game predictions. I'll start with you here. Who are you going with?
What's the line? 10?
10.5. It might be a little less now with Penix starting.
I'll give, I'll put the rookie jitters into this mix. And Micah McFadden trying to jump on that. I'm going to say 27-17 Falcons.
The line is down to 8. It was at 10.5. The line has moved by 2.5 points since the announcement of Michael Penix about half an hour ago. Noah.
If and this was tough. I was thinking when Kirk Cousins was going to start, I was thinking like an ugly like 20-17 or 17-14 game where we win, but it's not pretty, kind of like the Raiders game last night, which was 15-9. This one, funny enough, kind of makes me a little more optimistic because of how poor Kirk Cousins has been lately. How, like I said, Penix is an unknown, which can really help when they first go in at times because there's pretty much no film that you have on the guy. And he does have that mobile element as well, which I think can open up a lot for the offense that just isn't there with Kirk Cousins. Like I said, I think if he doesn't have to do amazing to start, if he just plays average with the weapons that this offense has against a Giants team is really struggling, they can win the game. And I think they will. I think it'll be something like, I agree with like a 10-point game, probably maybe like 24-14, I'd say is probably where I'm at right now with the score.
Okay. Well, now I have to rethink my score, although I might just stay with it regardless. I think Penix is going to have an okay first half. I don't think he's going to do anything great, but I think in the second half he'll pick it up a little bit. Again, he does have weapons, so it's too long of a game against a 2-12 team with a locker room type of secondary, a high school locker room type of secondary. Yeah, Penix should throw for at least 200 yards, at least one touchdown pass, if not more. Bijan will get his stuff going on the ground. I'm going to go ahead and say Penix throws one, Bijan rushes for one, Younghoe Koo kicks a couple field goals. Giants keep it close. A good, valiant effort. And again, we don't know if Boyle's officially starting yet either. We're just assuming that because of DeVito's concussion. Falcons 20, Giants 17. Giants move one step closer to a top 2 draft pick. However, this is a game, ladies and gentlemen, that the Giants could win. This is not a unwinnable game. Been a lot of one possession games in the NFL this season, and we saw the Raiders with awful quarterback play in Desmond Ridder almost win on Monday Night Football.
That's so embarrassing to hear. Oh my God. And that quarterback of all quarterbacks, it just had to be him. I was about, if we had lost that game, I literally would have logged off social media permanently and you would never hear from me again. That's how bad that would be. Thank God we won that game. Oh my God.
This has been a lot of fun with both of you tonight, but it is time to sign off. Noah, where can people find you and your work?
Well, mainly I'm over on the Sports Box. I have actually a new podcast I debuted about 2 months. Wow, it's already been like 2 months. That's crazy. Called the Sport Life Uncensored Show with my buddies David and Tyler. We talk NFL over there. It's not just Falcons, although I can rant about them a lot because they like to troll me. They're Saints and Cowboys fans, though, so they have it somehow even worse than I do. But we talk general NFL predictions, trivia, Mount Rushmores as well. We have one for NFL running backs this week, actually, that we're going to do Thursday night. That'll be fun. I'm sure not controversial at all. I also am over here on the Review and Preview Network. Don't really do my hockey one anymore because don't really have the time to. But I am still officially a member. So Tom and I did do the Review and Preview show earlier this season where we also talked NFL on there. We'll see if that's coming back soon, maybe. But yeah, that's pretty much it.
Awesome. Sam, any final thoughts before we sign off tonight?
Just let Bijan run. That's it.
Just lose.
Just I don't even care if they win or lose. Just let Bijan run. That's all I ask.
Let's get Sam a fantasy football championship.
Amen.
I've never won one.
You just reminded me. I am actually in one of my leagues. I just got off the bye. We have single week elimination games in that one. So I'm in the second round there. But in my other one, I actually made the finals as well because I absolutely destroyed everybody because I have Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase in that league. which is just ridiculous. So yeah, I could have another championship, which I have won one. I've won like, I don't know, 5 maybe over the years. So maybe I could add some more, but we'll see. Need Josh Allen and Joe Burrow to keep lighting it up, and then they can sit in week
Easy.
18 for all I care. Don't care.
Easy.
Yeah.
That's why, folks, always end your fantasy football season in week 17.
17. Yep.
Don't risk week 18 where starters don't play.
Mm-hmm.
Folks, if you want to check out Big Blue Avenue, you can here in all of our social media. On behalf of Noah Dawg Deibler, Sam Cardona Norberg, I'm Tom Scavetta saying so long. Good luck to your Falcons, Noah. And without further ado, let's go Big Blue.